All right, let's
All right.
see. Second, we're supposed to be live. Just gonna make sure.
Yeah, gave me a little.
What's going on, everyone? All right, let's see. Second, we're supposed to be live. All right, let's
All right, yeah.
Second, okay, we're live.
Awesome.
Maybe I will just quickly.
What's going on?
All right, that's second. Sorry. Gonna quickly check if we can see while we're live how many people have joined already, or should we wait a second for it?
Yeah, you want to let a few people funnel in. Right? I'm sorry?
You have time, right?
Yeah, I got all the time in the world, man. I'm off tomorrow morning, so.
All right, sweet. Let's see.
I am up a little bit past my bedtime, so bear with me if I start to get slow.
All right. Okay, Allison Stewart. And it seems like some people have. Okay, I can see the comments here. Let me see. Okay, 11 people watching right now. We can give it another minute or two.
Yeah, let people.
I'm gonna quickly on Instagram, just in case people have missed it there, and then we can start. So
awesome.
Let's see.
Awesome.
Allison, thanks for joining. Let's see. I'm gonna copy this. Seems like 13 people are on right now. All right, more people joining. Cool. Take a screenshot. I think. All right, sorry everyone who's waiting. We're just making sure more people can join, because a lot of people had actually engaged in the post that I made, both on Facebook and by email as well. So, all right, this is ready to share. I'll put the link for everyone on Instagram, then send. All right. Cool. All right, we can start.
Awesome.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining, everyone. I really appreciate it. SEBALEX here. Obviously, if you've been watching my videos before on my channel, you already know what type of content I make related to animal rights. Codey here reached out to me probably like 2 months ago or something.
That was a while. A while ago.
We've been trying to, Codey just very nicely shared that he'd love to have a debate with me. And I thought, why not? I mean, anyone who reaches out respectfully the way he did, I don't see any negative coming out of it. You know, we can always have civil discussions about this stuff. And we've been trying to find good timing since then that actually fits both of us. And here we are. Codey, if you want to present yourself, say who you are, what you do, or what, at least like you're a hunter and everything. If you want to give any details,
yeah,
then we'll...
yeah, for sure. So yeah, my name is Codey Luker. I was born and raised in southern Idaho. If I'm sure anybody from the States knows where that's at, right? So we got I've hunted Idaho my whole life. I went through hunter's education when I was 9 years old, and I've hunted ever since. So as soon as I hit 10 years old, you can hunt small game. And then when you hit 12 years old, you can start hunting big game like deer and elk and such. And I've hunted every year except for I am military. And I've been stationed overseas for a few years, so minus those years that I obviously couldn't. But yeah, that's me. I just and I want to make something really clear that with all the different types of hunters out there and all the vast land and things that I have no business speaking on, I cannot be a representation of all hunters. Okay, so I can represent me and the kind of hunting that I do on the kind of land that I hunt, and maybe we can come to some sort of, you know, like I wouldn't say a middle ground because I'm not really trying to get there, I guess, but I just want to hear what you have to say, and like maybe we can come up with something.
All right, cool. Perfect. So just a question. When you mentioned like small game and big game, could you give examples of what that would be considered?
For sure. So your big game animals are your animals like your deer, your elk, moose, right? And just larger animals that traditionally in Idaho you can take one a year, right? So you get one elk a year, you get one deer a year, and then like antelope, like if you can draw, and then it gets even more complicated when it comes to drawing tags and open tags and things like that.
Yeah.
So
all right.
but
And is that by law or just because you don't need
by
one?
law? By
All
law.
right.
Yeah, it's by law. And your small game is your things like rabbits and upland game birds like doves, even waterfowl like ducks and geese and stuff like that.
All right, cool. Okay, perfect. So my stance is that given animals are sentient beings who obviously experience their life in the way we experience ours, obviously there's different levels, but they are sentient beings who have interest in continuing their lives, and they are conscious beings as well. And the fact that we know, and it's scientifically proven, that nutrition-wise we don't need animal products to survive and thrive and be healthy, then it would therefore be immoral, let's say, to kill animals unnecessarily because we're not doing it as something that we need to survive. So my stance is, by the way, and I used to be a hunter before I was even vegetarian or vegan, obviously. I used to hunt with some friends, just birds. I haven't killed any other animals, but I did when I realized that, okay, this isn't something I'm doing out of necessity. How can I actually justify it? I realized, okay, I have to change. And then I became vegetarian as a result of that because I didn't know anything about veganism. And when I found out about veganism and found out that I also don't need any type of dairy or eggs and things like that, I switched to veganism. So that's my point. And if you'd like to either give yours or give an anti-argument, let's say, to what I said, all yours.
Well, yeah. So I agree with you 100% that animals are sentient, conscious beings, and we need to take care of them. I want to make that clear. And I know that sounds like a catch-22 or like conflicting, especially with vegans. They don't understand how can you love something and shoot it, right? And it's so complicated that I don't even know if I can explain it. But it is real, right? And so I do agree with you 100%. The animals are conscious, sentient beings. They don't experience life like humans do, right? Well, with some like aquatic animals, right? Or whales or dolphins, they're very similar. And even pigs have a massive intelligence. Yeah. So there are these outliers, right? But I'm talking about a deer, right? If I'm talking about a deer who really all it thinks is to breed and to survive, right? It's not like it wants to build its deer home for its deer family. That's just not, that's not real. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that the animal doesn't deserve respect. The animal 100% deserves as much respect as we can give it. And with that being said, if me, Codey Luker, quit hunting, wildlife would majorly be unaffected except for the animals that I take, right? Yeah. Those animals would go on and probably be killed by either another hunter or predators or whatever. But if the entirety, right, and I'm speaking specifically of the North American wildlife conservation model, if the entirety of all hunters quit, we would see drastic negative effects, not only on human beings, but also on wildlife. Yeah. And I mean, we can just look at history and the good that hunters have brought through that North American wildlife conservation model, that the progress that we've made towards making wildlife's lives actually better and protecting their habitats, protecting them as a species, more so than protecting the individual animals, if that makes sense.
All right, cool. So I'm just gonna give my point on one thing, and then if you want to say something to that, you can. If you don't, I have another question as well. So when it comes to conservation, I've actually looked into it, and I've looked into the American data. So one of the main reasons of this imbalance that we have in nature, and especially the animals that you're mentioning, is actually animal agriculture. I don't know which American organization it was, but it's like it's part of the government. I can quickly Google it later on. They actually take care of killing hundreds of thousands of wildlife every single year to protect livestock, so to protect farm animals, because these wildlife actually enter these areas and cause harm to the farmers because that's their livelihood, basically. So they kill farm animals. And for that reason, these organizations actually literally massacre a lot of animals. So we have to actually realize, okay, if we have an issue with wildlife and the numbers and everything, we can either find a solution within that issue, or we can find the solution to the issue. In my opinion, the current solution, which is you hunt to keep the numbers down, is not a solution that can eradicate the issue. It's only a solution to the side effects. So it's like it's like you have an open wound and you keep on putting something so the blood doesn't come out, but you're not closing the wound. Let's say something like that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And another thing is that if we actually wanted to do something for the benefit of the animals, and these government agencies actually gave animals the respect they deserve, we would find more peaceful ways to deal with it, such as the capturing technique to basically castrate them and then release them again. And that means that you can control the numbers without actually taking away their lives. Now, obviously, it's not the most natural thing, but at least you're not taking their lives away. But this solution is not being given enough attention because the government is not interested in animal lives and therefore not interested that much in spending money, because I can imagine, I haven't looked into it, but I can imagine that this solution would demand more tax money or something like that, or funds,
It absolutely would.
Yeah. And that would not happen because we don't give animals the consideration that they actually deserve, like the respect that they deserve. Now, another thing I want to say is, given this is something separate, like if we're going to look actually to any animal that can cause, let's say, an imbalance in nature, or just like destruction of nature or destruction of resources, if our justification to kill innocent animals is because we're trying to find a balance, we can actually apply that same justification to human beings, because let's face it, we do the same thing. So there, my question would be, try to concentrate, and I can explain this because it might sound a bit complicated, but my question would be, what is the trait that is true of animals that, if true to humans, would justify killing humans to conserve and make sure the environment is more sustainable? So what is it, if we were going to take all the traits that animals have and put them one by one in a human, at what point, at which trait could we also justify killing humans to protect the environment? Did I explain myself well enough?
Yeah, you did.
All right,
so
cool.
Before I get to your question, there was a couple of things that you mentioned that I'm going to try to hit on real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So one of the things that you mentioned was the absolute slaughtering of animals to protect livestock, and the majority of that actually also comes from hunters. The vast majority of that also comes from hunters, and I'm talking specifically of what they call pest animals, right? And that's your things like jackrabbits, coyotes, things like that just tear up land, even kill deer. All right, which is it's not a deer. It sounds like it's a small bird, right? That just destroys land. And so I've even had farmers, while I'm hunting, whether it's ducks or whatever, I've heard of farmers, and I had a farmer myself who paid me 25 cents for a killdeer, right?
Yeah.
A quarter a killdeer. And this is before, as I've matured as a hunter, right? Like, my views of things have changed. When I was an early hunter, I would never have this conversation with you, and I would have just been here trolling you, asking you what caliber I should use for elk. You know what I mean? And I actually did that at a PETA rally. But I realized that I wasn't making any progress there. But moving on, so especially when it comes to coyotes and jackrabbits and things like that, I have a guy that I work with who's never hunted in his life, but he's killed a lot, right? He goes out bunny blasting, right? Which is also something I used to do. I don't do it anymore for moral reasons, but he goes out and he just kills rabbits, because you don't need a hunting license to do it. You can do it whenever you want. It's not regulated because there's such an abundance of them that they have to knock those numbers down, right?
Yeah.
So they're just like fucking go crazy,
Yeah.
right? Now obviously for me as like I said, that person has never hunted a day in their life, but they've killed. And hunting and killing are two different things, but that's something we'll get into later. They're intertwined, but they're not the same thing. Yeah. And I'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
But as far as like protecting livestock, that is a major motivating factor of the government, because like you said, the government itself does not give a single rat's ass about animal life.
Yeah.
It doesn't care. The government cares about one thing, and that's getting its paycheck, right? So how does the government get its paycheck? It protects the farmers. It gives the farmers a grant. The farmers pay back the grant. I mean, if I get into like private land hunting laws and all that stuff, it's a mess. And you look at it and you can see all the kind of like delves of corruption that not just the government, but the farmers participate in, that it affects wildlife in a negative way, but they're both getting their pockets lined. So fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm not about. And you see that even with the North American bison, right? Because we've been able to bring back white-tailed deer, elk, all these species from near extinction. Why can't we do the same thing with bison? Well, realistically, we can, but the problem is bison carry a specific disease that when it gets infected with livestock, that it can infect livestock with, that then causes them to miscarry their young. So so that's why bison is still such a small number.
Yeah.
It gets dicey, right? And I'm not an expert on the subject. I just know the base level. But your question essentially was, what traits would come from an animal, right, to put into a human that then we could justify basically killing humans to preserve the environment, the ecology, and things like that, right? And my answer, I think, would be a level of intelligence. And I know that that's probably not what you wanted to hear, but like for me, I couldn't shoot a dolphin or a whale, right? Because I understand their level of intelligence, that they have this level of mourning the death of their family and their friends that is equal to humans, right? Yeah. If not stronger. Like in elephants, I would never shoot an elephant because they have that ability. Other animals don't have that emotional capability. Talking specifically of like a deer, right? A deer doesn't. If a deer is hanging out with its deer friend or whatever, a member of its herd, and that member gets shot or attacked by a wolf, that deer is not thinking, "Oh no, Timmy, you gotta save it." No, that deer is thinking, "I gotta get the fuck out of here." So that's not me. And that's all it's thinking. Does that make sense? So I'd say that the limit there would be a level of intelligence almost.
All right. So if you were to take that trait and apply it to humans, would you think it's justified to kill a human who doesn't have that level of intelligence? Say someone who is like mentally disabled or has disadvantages, mentally speaking, or even a child, like probably a pig has more intelligence than a child, and the child can't mourn as much as, let's say, a pig or even a deer. With that trait that you gave, we could basically justify killing humans who have that same level of intelligence. What do you think?
So you got me there, right? Because that doesn't make any sense. And then you bring that up, all right? And that's true, right? Because I couldn't kill a kid, you know what I mean? So obviously, and I've seen in your videos, and something that you bring up is speciesism, right? Which I believe everybody has, right? I think everybody has it somewhere, and I do too, right? I never called it speciesism. I never heard that term until you mentioned it. I called it a hierarchy, right? That's what I called it. But it was the same idea, right? Where I hold killing an elk more emotion. It's more emotional to me. It's a much more emotional experience to kill an elk than it is to kill a duck. Now, why? They're both animals, right? But I have this hierarchy. Right. So that exists, and I acknowledge that. And but I'm not necessarily trying to get rid of it in a sense. I just want to make sure that it's correct, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what is it in that hierarchy? Because in that hierarchy, if what makes you decide to give enough respect to not kill them is the like intelligence level, then again, that would either justify endlessly killing children or mentally disabled
and
people.
See that's not necessarily a good argument that I put out, is the level of intelligence, because at the same time I would kill a human in a certain situation, the same way I would kill any animal in a certain situation, right? At the very top of my hierarchy is my wife, right? Nothing comes before that. And then under that would probably be like other family, and then myself, and so I have like a human hierarchy. But at the end of the day, because of I'm a human, I hold humans at the top. Right. And that could be good, that could be bad, right? But essentially my species I hold above other species. And I know that is what you're trying to get rid of. But my thing is that not necessarily to bring the other species to the same level that we treat humans, right? But I do want to treat them better. I want to get further. I want to get farther down the line, if that makes sense.
All right. So I want to make one thing clear, is that personally, and I think this would apply to the philosophy of veganism, it's not necessarily to claim that every single life is equal. Like, I'm not arguing that the life of an ant is equal to a life of a dog is equal to a life of a human, because we all experience things differently. So there's a certain amount of pleasure or suffering that we all experience, and that inherently creates a certain level of hierarchy, not from my view, just inherently, because we experience life in different ways. So if I had to either run over an ant or run over a dog, I would obviously choose the ant, so you have to take that into consideration. So I'm not arguing to give equal value to all lives, whether human or non-human. I'm arguing that they all deserve equal consideration and respect in the way of not unnecessarily causing harm and suffering. So the example that you gave, like when you explained, like at the top of the hierarchy is your wife, right? Now, obviously, when it comes to taking the life away from someone, you need quite a good justification. And most of the time that justification could be in self-defense, let's say. And you yourself said if you had to, in a certain situation, you said you would even kill a human. I'm guessing that would be either in self-defense or if it was in their best of interest. So if that human was suffering from 5 gunshots and they're bleeding and like they're in a lot of pain, or from an explosion, they've lost a limb or something, you think it's ethical to end their lives for their best interest. I'm imagining that is the case that you would. Is there any other case that you would add to that, where you would feel comfortable taking away?
So I actually have a list that work gave me. I got a list. But no, there's a few reasons: protect life, limb, property, and just pretty much it boils down to that. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to go around and take somebody down for some cash or anything like that.
Exactly. So it's mostly self-defense related.
Sure.
When it comes to these animals, we are not killing them for self-defense, or let's say as a hunter, you're not killing them for self-defense, because these animals don't pose any threat to you. Their existence in their large numbers could pose a threat to the environment, which could pose a threat on you. But we have to take into consideration that if it wasn't for us messing up with the ecosystem, we wouldn't be in this situation. So if you extend the level of threat and where it's coming from, it's humans that are threatening the balance in the environment, and as an extension, our lives, because we depend on the environment. But you would not kill humans for that reason, because you believe that the human life deserves enough consideration and respect to not take it away. You would look for other solutions. But with other animals, you're not applying that same thing. So earlier you gave the argument of like an intelligence level.
I'm sorry, I'm still listening to you. I forgot to plug my phone in. I got it right here, so I'm just going to grab the cord, but I am still listening to you, all right?
I'll wait for you, no worries.
Sorry about that, brother.
No worries, that's completely fine. Good thing you saw it before you ran out of battery or something.
Yep, exactly. I got a little notification. I was like, oh no, I've made a mistake.
Yeah. All right.
All right, brother. Go ahead. As long as I got
Okay,
anything.
so earlier you gave when I asked you the trait question, like what trait is it that is true of animals that if true of humans would justify killing humans in the same situation? You gave the answer of the intelligence trait, and I think we both agree that that wasn't like you kind of bit the bullet on that, right? Like you agree that it's not a good justification because when you apply that trait to humans, you wouldn't do that. So
Right, I wouldn't kill a person because they're dumb, no matter how bad I want to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if that's not the trait, I would come back to it. Maybe you might have another answer. Maybe you want to think of another answer, and I'm completely fine if you take your time, even if it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, thinking about something. An answer that can be like, all right, if this trait was applied to a human, it would justify doing the same thing to a human. You did kind of mention the species trait, because the human species, you put the human species first, and I think almost everyone would, given how intelligent we are and how in what ways we experience life and suffering and pleasure. But in that same context, if let's say in a hypothetical situation, an alien species came down to Earth and they decided to enslave and torture and kill humans randomly when they could have other options, would you think that's justified if they said their argument is species though?
Well, of course not.
All right.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, of course not. I'm not saying I would agree with it. And I'm not saying the deer, right, that I shoot is like, well, at least it was a good guy. You know what I mean? That's not what the deer is thinking. The deer, but the deer, it's as simple. It's literally predator prey. That's it. That's all it is to the deer. For me, right, as the hunter, in my own selfish reasons, which they are, right, I get a level of pleasure not from killing the deer. I want to make that clear. Killing the deer is part of the job, but the level of pleasure that I get is from being part of the food chain, being part of nature, because as human beings, we're so far evolved now in our brains that we have removed ourselves necessarily from nature, like significantly. Look at me, I'm in an air-conditioned house with lights. You know what I mean? So when I get to just take the time, whether I'm by myself or with my father or something like that, and it's me, the land, and the animal, and that's it. You know what I mean? There's something very, very therapeutic and emotional about that experience.
Yeah.
And I can understand that from your point, you'd say that's great. I'm glad that you're getting this emotional experience, but is it worth taking a life? Right? And I would say that by itself, it's not. Right? Okay. And by itself, it isn't worth it. So the reason why I think we look at everything put together, right? And we can see the necessity of hunting, especially with the North American wildlife conservation model. Yeah. And you've mentioned things like trapping, castration, just things like that. And I don't necessarily disagree with the idea. Okay. I cannot wrap my head at all around how it would be any way practical or even possible, just based on how many animals there are, the amount of money and funding and all of that would take. And I just don't see how it would work. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, I could either like interrupt you or I can just write down a few words so I don't forget. I can just leave my notes here. Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing you mentioned. It's not because of the killing, let's say, it's more because you're part of the necessity of hunting. I would argue, and I'm pretty sure you might agree with me, that it's not a necessity of hunting, it's a necessity of fixing the problem that we have created in the environment, in nature, the imbalance of the ecosystem. That you want to be a part of the solution, the necessity of fixing the problem, not the necessity of hunting. Hunting is one of the so-called solutions, but you're not
sure.
Yeah, as the extension of that statement is, in my opinion, necessity to fix a problem, not necessity of hunting. Does that make sense?
I see that, but the thing is that hunting is on a large scale, right? It's the best solution. Because now I'm talking on a large scale for species as a whole, right? Now, again, I completely understand where you're coming from as a vegan, and I do honestly. I have so much respect for you and people like you, because I genuinely love animals, especially wildlife, right? When it comes to like farm animals, which I do want to talk to you about because I do want to make some changes, right?
Mhm.
And I mean that like to my core. But especially when it comes to wildlife, I have such this deep personal connection because of my experience with wildlife, right? I've competed against wildlife for so long that I have this deep seated, like it's in my soul type connection to these animals. So I want to do everything I can as to protect the species as a whole. And we just got to look at things like how ducks and geese were almost gone, especially geese, especially the Canada goose, right? And they were brought back 100% off the backs of hunters, 100% through the branding system, or the not branding, excuse me, the banding system, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. I'll tell you about it. But between banding and regulation and all of this, right? So we are taking a small population of these animals for our own purpose, personal use, right? But the species as a whole is thriving. They have better ecosystems. They have better land. They live longer, healthier lives. The animals that are in certain areas, right, are almost never killed by hunters. They're taken down by other predators, which we could argue is better or worse, right? Because their death is definitely worse.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's happening to a natural animal might be better. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a weighted, but what I'm saying is that hunting has done so much unbelievable good for overall good for the overall wildlife, for the species as wholes, that to just strip it down and take it away, I think that would be a very negative reaction, and I think a lot less people would be involved.
All right. Okay. So I actually found it much easier to just write down certain words to get back to them. So you mentioned that what you're doing is part of the, let's say, the best solution. I think objectively speaking, there's not a single reason for us to believe this is the best solution, because first of all, the issue is still there. Second of all, it's not really providing a solution. It's basically covering the side effect of the problem. And when you're part of the problem, you're not really a part of the solution. So although, let's say you mentioned certain animals were brought back because of hunting, just because hunting brought a solution to a problem doesn't mean hunting is justified. So to give a hypothetical situation, just because, let's say, I kidnapped a human and experimented on them to come up with a disease to cure another human, or I don't know, like a couple of other humans, doesn't mean that it's justified to kidnap a human when I know that we could have found a solution using another technique that doesn't involve the suffering or the killing of that human, right? Does that make sense?
So, and I would honestly disagree. If you're saying that, now I'm not saying it's necessarily justified, I guess would be the wrong term, right? But understandable at the very least, right? I guess a good way to think about it, right, would be thinking of, like, you ever played the game The Last of Us? I just finished the second one not too long ago, but you know what I'm talking about? All right, well, at the end of the game, right, so basically that's kind of the situation that you laid out, right? There's a person who possibly could save so many lives if they die, but this guy has such an emotional connection to this other person, that he refuses to let that happen. So he takes him and he runs away, and who knows how many people die as a result, right? So that's kind of the hypothetical situation that you laid out right in front of me, right? Wouldn't it be more?
No, not really, because that kind of falls into. Are you into like philosophy or logical fallacies or anything?
A little bit, yeah. But I've heard you use the term quite a bit.
Okay, so there's one logical fallacy that is basically false dichotomy, where you kind of say, like, it's either this or that, and I think that's how you're seeing it. You're saying we either, like in the story that you, like the game that you explained, he either let go of his life and saves so many humans, or he doesn't. when it comes to this situation and the example I gave, like kidnapping a human, experimenting on them in order to find a solution, it's not either kidnap and murder or torture or whatever and find a solution, or don't and not find a solution. There's a third solution. And
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
when it comes to hunting, in order to preserve or take care of the environment or the ecosystem, if you look at it, you're kind of looking at it in a false dichotomy context of we either do this or it's the end and the collapse of the ecosystem.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's kind of because we're used to dealing with this problem in this way. It doesn't mean there are no other ways, you know?
But right, and you're right in that. And what my point is that we can throw around hypotheticals like all day long. Like, what if we just did this, or what if we did this? But we have this North American wildlife conservation model that is tried, true, and proven, tested that it works in a grand scale, right? So animals are still dying, and you know this. I'm not saying this to be condescending. Animals are going to die no matter what we do. That's going to happen. And so, and another big thing is just, so the two biggest threats, right, to wildlife in a whole, there's two that are just major. And the first one is land destruction, and the second one is poaching, right? Yeah. And I want to be sure that hunters and poachers were not the same thing, right? Yeah. So, but the first line of defense, the number one thing that is saving those things are hunters. It's people who want to protect these lands for the wildlife so that they can hunt. Now, whether that's okay, like from a moral sense, like why would you just want to protect this land so that the deer stay there so you can kill them, right? So I can see why you would think, well, that's not okay as a moral sense. But even still, at the end of it, the deer are still protected, the land is still protected, and it's because of the hunters. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'll get to the part where I don't agree with. Just want to say a few things. You said they'll die no matter what we do, which I completely agree. But I'm pretty sure you wouldn't mean this completely, because same with humans, we all die no matter what we do. So 100%. Just because we'll all die no matter what we do doesn't mean I can go around killing humans. You know?
Right, of course.
And then you said the two biggest threats of land destruction and poaching. The two biggest threats are land destruction and poaching. Number one cause of land destruction is animal agriculture. This is, by the way, like obviously a fact. Like I've looked into all of this. There are studies. I can send you all the numbers. So number one cause of land destruction, which is one of the two biggest threats, is animal agriculture. And the second biggest threat you mentioned, poaching, which is also humans. So in both cases, the two biggest threats are humans. Yet you are not going around killing humans or killing CEOs of animal agriculture industry companies, right? Because you don't believe it's right to take away the life of that human in order to protect the land that you think you are that you believe that you should protect. Now, what is the trait what is the trait in animals that, if applied to, let's say, the CEOs of animal agriculture industry or just humans in general who are poaching, what is the trait in animals that if we put in these humans would justify killing them in the name of preservation and basically protecting the ecosystem, which is what you want to do? I know I'm getting back to this the trait question, but I think this could help us like get rid of a lot of points, let's say, you're making or trying to make. And I think you either bite the bullet on, let's say, when you realize it's not a good argument, or we probably find the trait that kind of justifies what you're doing.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't think that we're going to find a trait that justifies it in your mind, right? Or in your opinion.
Okay,
right?
But I don't believe it's necessarily an issue of my opinion, because it might not be my opinion that we shouldn't kill a human who is destroying the Amazon rainforest. Maybe that's
it would be my opinion that we should, but I understand that there's so much more problems with that we can't get around.
Okay, so if we get back to the name of the question, the thing is, if you can't name any single trait, you're gonna have to bite the bullet on that you don't have any justification for what you're doing. Would you agree with that?
No.
Okay, why?
because of what we talked about with it's not, you can't narrow it down to one thing. Like you can't.
But
it's impossible.
There should be something that's stopping you from doing the same to humans.
Well, probably the law is a big one.
Okay,
right?
So would you say Just sorry, continue.
No, but so my thing is like we obviously can't kill humans because the law tells us we can't. There's so much there. I mean, morally, from a moral sense, humans don't, we go to war over everything. I mean, how many wars are happening in the world right now? Right? How many people are being killed right now over whatever? You know what I mean? Whether it's money, oil, whatever, religion, you know what I mean? So humans kill humans for their own personal gain or their own reasons. Now me personally, right? I don't kill humans because I guess the thing would be a communication type deal. I guess that's something in there, right?
The trait?
What?
Do you mean like one of the traits, or the trait is
like it's somewhere in there, right? Like I remember one time when I was a little kid, I looked at my dad and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if animals could talk? Right? And my dad's an old school hunter, and he's like, well, we wouldn't be hunting anymore, I can tell you that.
Sounds like
well, I was like, well, you got a valid point there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So communication is something. Their level of intelligence is something, but it's more so the fact of that they're wild animals. We're not wild animals, right? We're animals, but we're not wild anymore. We're super domesticated. I'll fucking cry if I can't sleep on my mattress right now. So, so it's really easy, I think. And sorry if I keep going and you want to cut me off, just yell at me.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really easy to draw a line and say that, like, if animals are the same as humans, you're fucked. And you're 100% right. Right. But as a society, as and this is what you're trying to change, and I respect that so much, but as a society, we kind of have an agreement that wild animals are not the same as humans. They're just not.
All right. So to the trait that you brought up, which is communication, if we were to apply that to a human who cannot communicate with me, does that justify me killing them?
Well, we can communicate with pretty much every human. I can communicate with a dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, so communication, like I said, it's something in there. It's not like the trait. That's what I'm saying, is that I don't think we can narrow this down to one trait. There's so many vast differences between a human being and a wild animal that we can't bring it down to that one specific thing, right? We know that they're sentient, they're conscious, they feel pain, right? I'm not ignoring that in any way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, I take it very much into consideration when I make my kill and my harvest, right? So, so that's something that we need to be aware of.
All right.
But
so, if I were to meet a human who is coming from such a different culture, background, everything, let's imagine like the tribes that live in the middle of the Amazon rainforest who we haven't even had contact with yet. We just know they're there.
Right.
I would probably communicate better with a pig than a human in those tribes, probably. Does that mean that I have some kind of justification to kill a human from that tribe because I don't communicate on the same level? Or even let's say, again, it doesn't have to be just a language issue. It could be someone who has mental and physical disadvantages that doesn't allow them to communicate with me, you know? But that wouldn't justify me killing them. So that can't really be the trait. And you said there could be many traits, but we haven't really found one strong enough trait that could justify killing them when we could actually put effort and money into finding another solution. Because with humans, that's what we do, right? With humans, when a bunch of humans are being destructive to the environment, we don't go around and killing them. And you're not killing them either,
No.
you know, as someone who would kill for the environment. So we are not doing that effort with other animals. So there must be either some kind of logical fallacy in our approach to the idea, or just a lack of like having a good justification. There must be a difference that when it comes to other animals, we're fine with killing them instead of doing the effort. But when it comes to humans, we just do the effort of finding a solution. Now, again, I do want to say that just because it has been a solution to the side effect, let's say to the symptom of ecological collapsing, doesn't mean that it's a justified solution. Like just because something horrible you've done has shown some kind of good results over the long term, doesn't mean that what you did was right. So if let's say if I enslave 2,000 human beings and I make them build something for me for free, which is absolutely amazing because it's for free, it doesn't justify enslaving, even though the project was successful at the end. I managed to build something, you know?
Right.
So,
and I see what you're saying. Yeah. And I feel like that goes right back to that hierarchy that we were talking about, right? We hold humans higher, and we do. And don't you
think we need a justification of why we hold them higher?
I don't think so. I don't know for sure. That's something that I would like to sit on for a minute.
Okay.
Right. But but it was funny because you brought up the fact of like a tribe in Amazon, right? That we have no contact with, and we wouldn't be angry at them for hunting because that's still what they do to survive, right? They haven't advanced to our level yet, so it makes sense in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But
I wouldn't say it's justified, but I would understand that when it's out of survival, you may do things that are not moral. I probably would do the same. I can't know unless I'm put in a survival situation. So I really understand that they do it. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, you're 100% right. You would say that like killing literally out of survival wouldn't necessarily be justified, but understandable.
Yeah.
Right. See, that's kind of where I'm sitting, I guess, when it comes to hunting. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that maybe you can't justify it to that degree, but we can understand where its necessity comes from, and we can take the good from it. And it's funny because you mentioned the again with the tribe in Africa, because you couldn't go in there and kill them. We would hold you to a higher standard, right? We'd be like, well, you know better. But if you went there and they killed you, we'd be like, well, you dumbass, you shouldn't have gone in there. You know what I mean? And it's and in that sense, it's kind of similar to animals, right? Because if I'm out on an elk hunt, right, and I kill an elk, it's very easy for a lot of people on Twitter or Facebook or wherever to be like, you're a monster, you're disgusting. How could you do that, right? But if I went there and the grizzly killed me, it'd be the same thing, right? And I can understand why. I get why. Trust me, I'm not. You know, I get it. Yeah. Nobody likes to see cute animals dead, right?
Yeah.
Including myself. We don't like to see it. But at the end of the day, what's really happening with hunting, okay, all that's happening, especially for myself, is I'm taking the role of a predator. I go out, I get involved in nature. I take this role of the predator. I take my prey. It is a microscopic drop in the actual population. Okay. I take that. I feed me and my wife for well over, like, off one deer and one elk. We're set for all the way till the next hunting season. So now for any meat, I don't have to participate in factory farming. I don't have to participate. You know what I mean? Granted, again, something I kind of want to talk to you about a little bit later, but I probably still will, right?
Yeah.
There's changes I want to make, but I still need to know what all the information is.
Sure.
But you know what I mean? So now I've taken one animal or two animals, we'll say the deer and the elk, right? I have a hunt coming up in October. It's deer and elk. I'm hunting them at the same time. But if I get the deer and the elk, we're set. I don't have to technically participate in it. And even what you would say is that I don't have to kill them, and I still don't have to participate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But this way, not only did I significantly minimize my effect on animal suffering, right? These animals die quickly. and very ethically. So that's good. That makes me a little bit more in comfort, right? Knowing that they're not going to get torn apart by wolves.
Yeah.
But and it's kind of hard to explain. You know what I mean? You said you've hunted birds, right? I wish I could take you on like a deer hunt. You know what I mean? Like, and I know that you wouldn't want to participate or anything. So obviously, but I wish you could experience it and just see, and then we can show you all the, like, this is why this happens. You know what I mean?
All right. So you mentioned, let's say you kill 2 animals for the whole season or something. Do you mean that by yearly or every 4 months or how
yearly? So the season, right? It'll open for about a month, right?
Yeah.
So my deer season opens a few days before my elk season, and then my deer season closes just a few days before my elk season. So I have like a month or so, because of my job, even less time to fill my tag, right?
All right. So that is definitely a microscopic drop. Like if you were eating chicken, let's say, you'd be killing and eating more animals per year, but you're relying on bigger animals, so therefore you eat 2 a year, let's say. But that could kind of fall into the same thing that I mentioned earlier, the false dilemma, false dichotomy, where you're saying it's either, let's say, 50 animals a year because I'm eating chicken, I'm eating fish, I'm eating this, I'm eating that, or 2 animals a year, where actually there's a third option of no animal per year. So that is one thing. And you said to significantly minimize your impact on animal suffering. Same thing. It's not only 2 options. We have a third option where you can fully minimize to an extent where you don't cause any intentional harm. Because of course, even if you're vegan, you still cause animal suffering. As long as you're alive, you're gonna cause animal suffering. That's a fact. But veganism would be like, we take it to the maximum possible way of minimizing our impact on animal lives, you know? So we're doing the most that we can, because if we did the full, well, that would be basically killing yourself. And that's not like a solution for the whole world's problems. Like we don't advocate for mass suicide or erasing the human race, right? So I do want to say that, like, it's, as a vegan, I don't believe I'm not causing any animal suffering, you know, but I do see that when it comes to intentional suffering that I could create on an animal, or it doesn't even have to be suffering, even if it's like a very quick bullet in the head, I'm still taking the life away. So all I'm saying is you can minimize that. You can minimize the intentional suffering to 0, because you know you can live and thrive on a plant-based diet and get all the nutrients you need and be healthy and everything. This is obviously backed up by data, and not like by PETA or something. You know, I'm talking like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is like based in the States. I don't know if you know about them. They're like the largest organization for food and nutrition.
I've actually looked into the Whole Foods plant-based diet and stuff like that. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I don't have a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say that your only thing is that you're hunting because, well, first of all, you put animals in another category. You start by putting humans first. I would still say that a lot of vegans can put humans first and still not intentionally kill other animals. You know, like I can say when it comes to value of life, of how much pleasure or suffering a being can experience, humans are up there, probably the first, or if not in the top 5. You know, there's probably animals that we don't know about yet, but you can still have that view and not kill animals. I think the issue here is that you see that the hunting association and the wildlife conservation organizations, they're saying, we need you to hunt in order to take care of the like collapse or like the imbalance of the like.
Sorry, just to be clear, it's not just hunters and hunting charities that are saying that. It's also just the biologists, the experts, the ecologists, the people. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones that are like, if we all stop hunting, we're in big trouble.
Of course. Yeah, I can completely agree that I'm sure there are, that when it comes to numbers, we can prove that hunting is having a positive impact on that kind of stuff. But I'm saying when you contribute to that approach of dealing with the problem, you're kind of saying that there is no other approach, where the problem is that we don't value animal lives enough to create another approach. And what is it that stops us from valuing animal lives? What is that trait that animals have that we don't?
Here we go.
That's stopping us. I know we're going back to it again.
It's a great question because it's simple, but it's really fucking hard to answer. You know what I mean? It just is. It's so hard to pinpoint what that exact trait is, and honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. I'm gonna keep thinking about it, and maybe I can hit you up in a week and be like, I got it. Or you know what? It'll probably be while I'm hunting, because trust me, when I'm up in those mountains this October by myself, freezing my balls off, looking for an elk, I'm going to be running this conversation through my mind a lot. You know what I mean? And I think that that's progress in and of itself. But for, one thing I wanted to say is, like, let's say if I went 100% vegan, right? Mm-hmm. Except for my own game meat, right? Mm-hmm. I know that the term game isn't really like good, right? But
just for the real thing,
right. But for lack of a better term, right? My own game meat.
You can say the animal you kill.
Yeah, the animals that I kill.
Yeah.
Right. If I did that, wouldn't that be such a far step in the right direction for animal, like, just like, it's not the extreme, right? But it's better. You know what I'm saying?
I would say.
Would you agree or no?
I would say it's less bad. That's how I would agree. I wouldn't say it's better because it still has a negative thing. So I'll give you like a kind of an alternative example to this. If I unnecessarily punch 5 people a week and I reduce that to 1 person a week, that is not better. That's less bad, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Sure.
Okay.
But what if punching that 1 person a week made sure that the family that lived across the street lived a longer and better life?
That would be amazing if there was no other solution. So again, that would come back to, are we claiming
the fallacy, right?
Yeah. Are we claiming that there is no other solution to this problem? When we say that, we would be kind of making that conclusion that this is the only solution we have for that family on the other side of the road,
So I'll tell you, and I would entertain the idea of another solution. I would, if there was an actual one that I guess I could look at, because we can, like I said, we can toss around the ideas of castration and things like that, but we don't know how that, because I want to be clear too, that hunting isn't just about population control. That was something else that I wanted to bring up too, that you mentioned. It's to keep the numbers low. It's not to keep the numbers low. Actually, we brought the numbers up. The numbers are higher than they have.
Yeah, depending on the species though, right?
Right. So it's very good point, right? Because we talked about the coyotes and the jackrabbits, right? So keep those we want to keep those numbers low. We want to increase elk, things like that, right? So it goes, it's a balance that we had to create because of the mistakes of our ancestors.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Which we understand. The market hunting issue was such a major issue, and it was real hunters that brought that forefront back and was like, no, we need to protect these animals. So I want to be clear that I do have the animal's best interest in mind, minus the one that's in my crosshairs.
All right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? I know that sounds so insane, but it really makes sense. I promise.
I think it's because you still look at it as an issue where you actually have a trait that justifies dealing with it this way. I think once you realize that, for example, I haven't heard of one single trait that justifies this, I think if you get to the same point, you'll think, okay, I do have the animal's interest in my mind. Like, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, but I'm engaging in an act that is violating their rights because I don't think that they deserve the same kind of consideration when it comes to their lives, and that's because you believe that there's probably a trait. I mean, obviously you haven't thought of it. And again, you can, like, maybe in 2 weeks you hit me up and you're like, I'm ready to do another live, and I'm all for it. If you have like any other thing.
Yeah, we can do another one, man.
It doesn't even have to be another live. It could just be a phone call or whatever you wish. Like, it's normal that we haven't thought about these things. I mean, as I said, I used to hunt as well. It's not like I was born vegan from day one, like my whole life.
Right, of course.
I used to eat meat like on a weekly basis, barbecues on Sundays, hunting every now and then. I looked at animals as properties, things like that. I killed animals for.
I do want to say that I do see wild game at a level as property.
You do. So you believe like
at a certain degree, at a certain degree. What was that?
Do you want to elaborate on that? Why do you see them
so the way that the conservation model works, right? And I agree with, because I mean that thing is no system is perfect, right?
Yeah.
We know this. No system is perfect. But man, you just got to look at the results of the species, and we can see that this is pretty good. It's pretty good. And yes, animals die to do it, but anyway, so the way that basically it works, or at least the way legally that wildlife works, is that the wildlife belongs to the people, right? It is a resource, right?
By law,
actually, yeah, it's a resource.
Okay. Yeah.
Similar to, that's why I see you get hung up on a couple of your videos with the term harvest, which I do kind of want to break down just a little bit, right? But no, they're a resource, right? So for example, if there's a deer in your backyard, right? That's not your deer.
Mm-hmm.
That deer belongs to the people, right?
Yeah.
Now, so in that sense, you couldn't tell me that I couldn't shoot the deer. However, because it's on your property, you could limit my access to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, well, I'm not going to shoot the deer. I can't go get the damn deer. You know what I'm saying? Which again, that's not even necessarily true. You cannot. It's not legal to just shoot animals and leave them, right? Yeah. So you can't. That's why the big complaint about trophy hunters, right? Which is another something we got to do another one of these, man. There's so much. There's so much. But yeah. So basically, wildlife it belongs to the people, and I feel like that is the big divide, I guess, between me and you, because you would say that the wildlife belongs to itself, and I guess I would say that the wildlife does belong to the people, but it has as a natural resource, similar to water, to apples, right? And even though they are sentient and conscious, they're still a natural resource, in my opinion. But they need to be treated with a higher level of respect because they're conscious. Does that make sense?
All right. Yeah. So I would say that that's kind of not a logical fallacy. That's called appeal to law. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's basically like you're appealing to the law as if the law is always moral or something. So it's like if something is legal, then it's moral. Something is legal, therefore something is moral. So appealing to law isn't necessarily invalid, but you can kind of see that we take the issue in a way that the issue is that we take legality to be an unreliable indicator of morality. Like we can't always claim that the law is right. So for example, slavery was legal.
There's so many laws I disagree with from a moral aspect. So I get you.
If legal doesn't mean stoning is moral. So if by law wildlife falls under property of the people or whatever it falls under, doesn't mean that it's moral. It's not an indicator of morality. So I think we both agree on that. And there's a reason why the law says that is because the law fails to acknowledge the rights and the personhood of these animals. So even when it comes to, let's say, dogs and cats, which we kind of in our societies protect sometimes, but it always depends how much we protect them. So we protect them.
It depends on if it's wild.
Exactly. So if you hit my dog, you can get into trouble because you hitting my dog causes me distress. If you hit a random dog and no one takes you to court or something, you can get away with it.
A coyote is a dog.
Exactly.
That's all it is. It's a wild dog. And people shoot them for sport and then go home and pet their labs. Trust me, I get it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's just something we do.
And that is where speciesism comes in. Like we give them different values based on how we interact with them, where they by themselves, if their personhood was given by law, we could actually protect them as like persons, like as individuals, not as numbers, not as properties. Because the second you kind of label someone as a property, that's when you can do whatever you want to them. That's how slavery got away so easily, because they were seen as properties. You can do whatever you want to them, But once you give a human being or any animal a personhood, then you can no longer violate their rights without a consequence, So what we can both agree on is that we can't wait for the law to be moral for us to act in moral ways. If you went right now to a country where women, you're legally, let's say, allowed to beat up women, okay, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't engage in that action just because in that country
probably not.
So
it's not really my style.
Exactly. You wouldn't wait for the law to change in order to act in moral ways. And I would suggest that should be the same thing with other animals, including wildlife. As long as we're just following the law, we can't go forward as society, right? Like all the major changes in our modern society came from people disobeying the law in order to disrupt society and bring new changes. So as long as you use hunting as a way of what you say is conservation, because the numbers show that it has worked before, and I'm not lying that it hasn't. Obviously it has. If the numbers show that it worked, of course then it's worked. That's not something to argue about. But
you want to find something different.
Yes, because we can't justify something just because we achieved a certain end goal that gives us pleasure or gives us satisfaction. That could also be considered appeal to consequences. You're appealing to the consequence. So in that action, when you're appealing to consequence, you're basically doing whatever you want, because at the end you can justify it with the it's kind of seen. It could also fall into the category of utilitarianism, like the end justifies the means. But there's so many things you can do, literally so many things. If the United States wanted to make more money and justify making money with whatever they can do in between, then they can go to Iraq and claim that they have chemical weapons and bomb the shit out of them and make money, and then justify because they made money. This could be any other example. This is just on the top of my head, obviously.
Right. But I get what you're saying 100%. Yeah. So I feel something that when it comes, because like I said, I really genuinely care about the well-being of animals and wildlife.
Yeah.
And I know that there's probably somebody on the live that's like, no, you don't, because you shoot them. And it's but okay, yeah, you're right, but it's deeper than that. Mm-hmm. So, it's hard to find another solution, right? Because I'm not saying it's necessary. I don't think it's possible, but I've been wrong before. Okay. But for us to find another solution that protects land, right, and the wildlife as much as hunting does, and then you take out the hunting, I think that there's grounds to talk about that. The problem is, right, is we don't have one, at least not yet.
Okay.
Right. So we just don't. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't. A solution that we have tried doesn't exist. We haven't really tried a solution, but it does exist, because, as you said, the two biggest threats are land destruction and poaching.
Number one cause, and the number one stopper to both of those threats is hunters. The number one barrier between those threats is hunters, because I can explain this. What was that?
Currently, it's hunters stopping it. But what I was going to say was there is a solution that could stop both of them, giving animals the right of personhood and their individual rights that could protect them from being harmed. And that would end animal agriculture, which is one of the leading causes of land destruction, species extinction, water depletion, soil erosion, deforestation. All these things are directly connected, and that's the reason why animal agriculture is one of the leading causes of land destruction, which for you was one of the two biggest threats. The second biggest threat was poaching. Well, these two could be literally immediately illegal if we actually admitted that animals should have moral rights, like basic moral rights. I'm not saying like a chicken should have the right to vote or a cow should have the right to drive a car, basic moral rights, because that would immediately stop both animal agriculture and poaching. So
well, no, not necessarily though.
Except if someone does it illegally, of course.
Well, it's still illegal. Poaching is still illegal. And
not
land
everywhere.
Destruction. What was that?
Not everywhere. Like a lot of places.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But well, there's a worldwide illegal wildlife trade that brings in something crazy like $60 billion a year, right? And that comes from poaching. So how do we combat poaching, right? Because poaching is such a big issue, and I need to be 100% transparent here, right? Because I actually have very personal experience with this. I made a mistake, and I'll tell you all about it right now. Okay. So there's something called a youth duck hunt, right? That happens every year. It happens about a week before the season opens up. It's a weekend where if you're 15 or younger, 15 to 10, right? You can hunt, only you can hunt ducks for the weekend, right? You can still go with like your parents or whatever, but only you can hunt ducks. If you're older than that, you can't hunt ducks. And it just kind of gives young hunters a chance. You get what I'm saying? So I need to be 100% transparent because technically, according to my record, I'm a poacher. And that's something that I have to live with because I mixed up on the regs. I thought I was in a different unit than I was in, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought that my weekend was this weekend and it was actually the next weekend. I messed up. Mm-hmm. But I went out there and I went and shot some ducks with my friends, right? We harvested a few ducks. We killed the ducks. That's one part of it. Harvesting them is a different part of it. We'll get into that later. Yeah. But so I got the ducks and somebody saw me out there and they called and they reported me in. Next thing I know, I'm at work, right? And I got fish and game officers coming in. Hey, are you Codey? Yeah. Can you come out? They go up to my truck. They shine the flashlight in the bed of my truck and there's just blood and feathers. And they're like, you want to explain that? And I was like, yeah, it was a youth duck hunt. They're like, nope, that's next weekend, buddy. You know what I'm saying? So I did my community service and I paid my fees and my fines and all that, but that's still something that is on me. Yeah. So, but here's the thing, right? Is that the person that called me in was an experienced, well-mannered, like it was a hunter. It was somebody much older, much more mature who understood the regulations better. And he was a hunter who stopped a poacher. And in that aspect, I was the poacher, which fucking sucks. That's still something, but it's 10 years ago and I still live with it. But
basically, instead of killing an animal next week, you killed the animal this week. Yeah. Yeah. So instead of killing an animal, you killed an animal.
Yeah, I killed an animal at the wrong time in the wrong area. But those regulations are important because if you look at I'm sorry, I made such a mistake. For some reason, I thought you told me you were in Indonesia, not Lebanon. You know what I mean?
Right now, I'm in Indonesia, but I'm Lebanese.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so either way, I was looking into what hunting is like in Lebanon, and it's a disaster. It's a disaster.
It's horrible.
It's fucked. It's destroying.
We don't have any wildlife left in Lebanon.
It's all depleted. And that's because there's no regulation.
There's nothing. There's no regulation for humans, let alone other animals.
Yeah. Okay. So and I obviously can't, as an American, I can't just be like, well, do what we fucking do. But realistically, if you applied that same model that we applied, at least for time being, over 100 years, you're gonna see all those species go right back up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I would argue that again, that is taking the road of let's stick with what we're doing, even though it's causing unnecessary killing of animals, because we don't value them enough to find or invest into other solutions. Because again, if we could justify taking a life in the name of conservation, we could justify literally massacring humans left and right in the name of conservation, because we both agree humans are the leading cause of destruction on this planet.
100%, right?
Yeah.
But just like me and you, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, and like I said, we hold humans to a higher standard, right? Yeah. Because, and I see where you're getting is that you want the animals to have the same rights as humans.
Basic
right?
moral rights. Yeah, the right of life, the right of like
Life,
body.
liberty, pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, I mean, pursuit of happiness, depending of the on the species, I would say, because not every single species has that much intelligence to go after like happiness, but a lot of animals that we kill in this day and age actually.
But life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Yeah. And I agree with you. I do. And I think that maybe that'll happen. I guess. I don't think it will. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. 90% of the world's population still eats meat.
I would say 99%, but
what was that?
I would say 99% of the world population eats meat.
The last thing I looked at was 89%, and I still rounded up. I don't know.
Maybe that's a number including vegetarians, and then like a lot of Indians are vegetarians. So okay. But I would say one thing. For example, do you consider yourself to be pro-racism or against racism?
What are you trying to trap me in here, bud?
No,
obviously very anti-racism.
Exactly. Would you say we're ever going to live in a world with zero racism?
Never.
But would that make you start being racist? No, right? Because so it's the same thing. We probably might never live in a vegan world, but that wouldn't justify me taking part in killing animals, you know? So just because... Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off, man. I'm bad at this. But what I wanted to say is like I agree with you, right? But the thing that the main difference is, is that any amount of racism, right, is bad towards everybody. Right? Mm-hmm. So comparing hunting to racism, I know that's not like a direct correlation that you might be making, but what I'm saying is that if I'm racist to my coworker, that negatively affects everybody. Everybody. Yeah. That is bad on all grounds. But when it comes to hunting, it's not the same. And the reason why is because if I kill this elk, these 5 prosper. Does that make sense? So and you could say that that's a like you said, it's the false dichotomy, right? Because maybe we could make all 6. Maybe we could make all 6 prosper. And I see what you're saying there, 100%. Yeah. But the realistic view is that right now in our day and age, that's just not how it works yet. And I'm not saying that it'll never get there, but as of right now, I can help. Who knows how many thousands of dollars and thousands of hours I've dedicated of my own life towards the preservation and well-being of wildlife while taking a fucking drop for my own personal use. Because that's what it is. It's my own personal use. I acknowledge that. And so the problem that I think a lot of hunters have with vegans is that we do that and then we're labeled as the monster. And we're like, but you got to understand how much we're doing and how hard we're actually working, because hunting isn't easy. A lot of people think it's you roll up and put your sights on your deer or whatever. Sometimes when I'm 6 days into my trip, I wish it was that easy. Trust me. You know what I mean? But it's just not. It's very hard, grueling work. And it builds an emotional connection that we have to understand, because that is why hunters aren't going to stop hunting. If it was easy, if hunting was just shooting a deer, I wouldn't do it.
All right. I was going to say something. I wrote down something else, but I had something before that. So basically, one thing we can agree with is that you want to contribute to the wildlife preservation and conservation of the environment and everything.
100%.
But as long as you're taking part with the current so-called solution, you're not advocating for the introduction of a new system that could save even the animals that you are killing. Because based on what you're saying, you claim to care about the animals, but at the same time, you're taking part of the system instead of challenging the system, right? So if let's say, again, I'm going to make comparisons to what could be considered like controversial comparisons, but I think it's stupid to call them that, because I'm not comparing the experience of the victims. I'm not comparing at all the suffering of the victims, but I'm comparing the mindset. So if we go back a couple of 100 years and I own a slave and I am against the slave trade industry, then my first way of battling slave trade industry is not to contribute to slave trade industry. And the second would be to actively advocate against it, right? For the rights of the slaves. Well, by law, they are slaves, but I would actively take part in that because I claim to care about them. That's why a lot of I actually also remember what I was going to say earlier. I'm just going to write it down. That's why I believe that I do believe that you care about animals, but I think in some way you don't care enough to stop doing what is kind of hurting them as well. I mean, not kind of, it is hurting them as well because you're killing them.
Yeah, I shoot them in the lungs and the heart.
Exactly. But as a vegan, you would literally be pressuring. Obviously, the more people we have doing this, the faster we can get to that solution. If, let's say, instead of 2 million vegans in the United States of America, we had 150, which is half the population, I think.
That's about how many hunters there are, I think. I think that's about how many hunters. I might be wrong on that. No, I'm definitely wrong on that. It's not 50%.
Isn't the United States 300 million?
Yeah, it's 300 million people in the United States, and I think it's like 12.5 million people are hunting. So I was wrong. You said 150 million. And
no, I would say 150 million if they became vegan. I'm not saying because now they're hunting, but if many of them were vegan and they advocated for animal rights, then obviously government agencies would say, okay, let's use our tax money into funding new programs to help wildlife, to help the environment without killing them. Because again, animal agriculture is the leading cause of all these problems we have connected to species extinction and land destruction and everything. And animal agriculture gets billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars when it comes to subsidies. So all those, it's not like we don't have the money to take care of wildlife.
So
let me just finish.
Go ahead.
Just recently, I think they're giving a new bailout that's like $60 billion for animal agriculture. You know, I'm pretty sure we both agree that with 60 billion, we can definitely start new programs into checking in what other ways we can help preserve the environment. And the last thing I want to say, I should have said this from the beginning, is that I don't believe hunters are monsters. I would go as far as to say, I have more respect for someone who kills directly than someone who says, I love animals, but I could never hunt. Because then they go to the supermarket and buy it, and they're just paying someone else to do it. So I know
I had a lady come through my gate. Okay, I swear this is a true story, right? It was like dusk. I was like, ooh, started to feel like hunting season. She looks me in my face. She goes, shame on you, with a Jack in the Box bag in her passenger seat. And I was like, what? What the fuck do you mean shame on me? Okay,
yeah.
Fuck you.
As long as you're eating animals, like I would say a hunter is at least not a hypocrite in that context, you know? So I think it's a fact. If you're going to eat animals, but you wouldn't kill the animals, for me, that's more of a hypocritical stance than someone who says, I kill animals and I eat animals. At least then you're being consistent in a way that I wouldn't agree with. I'm against it, but it doesn't change the fact that you're consistent. So with that, I don't want to make sure that we have that cleared out. But yeah, back to the thing that I was mentioning earlier. If more of us advocated for better management of tax money instead of giving $60 billion to an industry that is the #1 cause of deforestation and species extinction, then we could definitely fund more programs instead of the one that you're taking part in.
And I agree with you. And I think that the best way that happens, all right, is take the animal activists like yourself who are, because I'll tell you this, the majority of hunters are not for this factory farming bullshit, right? But the problem is I can't align myself with a vegan, right, who's going to turn around and tell me that I'm a monster. Like, for example, right, I support a lot of wildlife or just like charities, right? Like the National Wildlife Federation, the World Wildlife Fund. And the World Wildlife Fund isn't even a fan of hunting, really, but they're just like, look, as long as you guys are doing that over there respectfully, and we're going to take care of this, you know what I'm saying? And then we can maybe get to that later. That's where I feel like we should be, right? Is somewhere, because like I was talking about, I kind of want to make some changes to my lifestyle when it comes to factory farming, because I wasn't able to hunt for those 3 years. I'm still a meat eater, right? And I think about where my food comes from, but I was very easily able to just be like, whatever, you know what I mean? And I still ate meat, but I wasn't killing it myself.
Yeah.
So that's something I kind of want to change. But even still, what I think is, because you're right, the agriculture industry is a problem. Okay. And I scrolled through your whole Instagram, man, and I saw the shit. I've seen the shit. But it's hard to get hunters, because the hunting population would be like on your side with animal rights activists, and at least stopping this, which we can agree does significantly, like astronomically more harm to animals than not just livestock, but also wildlife, right?
Yeah.
So I see the PETA videos, right? They blocked me on Twitter. We had a discussion, but so but I saw the PETA videos, you know, and I see the torture of the animals in the cages and shit like that. And I'm like, dude, we got to do something about this. But then their next video is talking about how I'm the evil guy. And I'm like, well, fuck you then. I don't want to be on your team anymore. You know what I mean? And a lot of hunters feel that way. So it's like, how do we come together to fight the big giant first? And then if, you know, you guys want to take down hunting, well, then you just got a bunch of camo wearing, gun toting maniacs that you got to get through first.
Yeah. Well, I would say, like, again, I wouldn't approach hunters in that way. I have in the past, obviously, which is weird because I used to hunt as well. But we have to think about it in the way where I, as an animal rights activist, I'm asking for animals to be given the basic moral rights to not have their lives taken away by anyone, not only factory farming, you know?
Right, but don't you think that some progress is better than none? Definitely.
But I think as long as we advocate along hunters, we're gonna in some way probably fall in the category of let's end factory farming but not hunting. And we need,
I see,
animal rights activists, we advocate for the abolition of animal exploitation or animal killing. You know, we don't. So I'm, for example, against campaigning for bigger cages, because I believe that basically means that they are properties, but we should just treat them better. Whereas my approach is they are individuals whose rights we're violating no matter how we exploit them. So I would see bigger cages as what I said earlier, something as less bad instead of better, you know? So I quickly actually Googled it. And so here it is. The USDA's Wildlife Services killed 4 million animals in 2013. I know it's like 7 years ago, but still, that includes more than 75,000 coyotes, more than 850 bobcats, more than 500 river otters, 3,700 foxes, more than 12,000 prairie dogs, and even bears, eagles, golden, and bald. So
so what you're listing, what it sounds like is their pest animals.
But they're also predators, right? So these animals would usually in nature, I mean, obviously I haven't checked in which area, in which state, in which forest, they would usually be killing the animals that you are shooting. So obviously when you take away the predator, you're going to have to shoot other animals because the predator is not there. So you're kind of messing up with the ecosystem. And this USDA's Wildlife Services, they're doing this to protect animal agriculture. So it's really like going in circles, you know. Animal agriculture exists, we need to kill wildlife. Oh, wildlife is going down, let's hunt. Animal agriculture exists, we need to kill wildlife. So we're going around in circles instead of just going like, animals deserve basic moral rights, we shouldn't exploit and kill them, and therefore animal agriculture doesn't exist. We can actually fund better programs for conservation with all the tax dollar that we're using.
But where does that come from? Oh, it comes from the agriculture fund. The agriculture fund. Okay, I see you.
I'm not joking. Just now, it's like $60 billion. Someone actually just shared about it. I can quickly bring it up so that I don't give any.
Yeah, if you see, I don't. Here's the thing: is I don't follow animal agriculture that follow it. You know what I mean? I'm not nearly as invested into animal agriculture as you are. I would say that I'm more invested into wildlife, but in a different sense. But that's something entirely different.
The current bailout for animal agriculture is $68 billion. That's tax dollars we're talking about. $68 billion.
I can get myself a pretty nice house with that.
You can get yourself a bunch of programs in conservation. You know, like that's what I'm talking about. But you do care about it, but you are unfortunately a part of the system which isn't doing any effort in fixing the real problem. That's why it's going around in circles. And although I appreciate your willingness to help the environment, I wouldn't appreciate the way you're going about it, because you're becoming another person who is taking part in the circle we're running around. You know, so imagine I'm your neighbor, and every day I'm doing something that's causing a lot of noise, and then I'm coming and I'm apologizing to you. So I make loud noise, I come apologize. I make loud noise, I come apologize. And I'm telling you, well, I'm doing my part in apologizing, you know, and so that you're feeling better when I apologize. But you're telling me, hey, why don't you work on not making loud noise?
I feel like that's a bad analogy.
I just came up with it straight away.
But no. So again, I get what you're saying, because but the problem is that it feels like it's got to be all or nothing. You know what I mean? And it's not just, like I said, it's not just the conservation issues. That's not the only reason why I hunt, right?
Yeah.
That's not it. That's a big reason why I hunt, but I also hunt for my own personal reasons, which are those emotional gains, the cleaner meats, the healthier lifestyle. I have to stay in shape if I'm going to be hiking over 100 mountains or whatever. You know what I mean? So these are a big reason, and I know that in your aspect of your mindset is that I can drop all of that, and then less animals die. And I don't think you're wrong. But my thing is that it's so ingrained with who I am. And it's, again, when it comes to the emotional aspect of the hunt, there is nothing that I can compare that to. That is something I can't explain over a video chat. You know what I'm saying? Like
I kind of know that feeling, because I was good at hunting birds. Like I was, from my first hunting trip, I took down 3 while they were flying sideways from me, like still in the air, not even on. And I got the pleasure that you're talking about. But the question is, does that pleasure justify, does pleasure justify taking away the life of someone, you know, whether an animal or a human? If it does with animals but not with humans, then what is the trait that animals have that humans don't, that justifies with animals and not humans? If it doesn't, then it's not really justification, right?
And I'm not claiming that it is a justification. I want to make that clear right now. I'm not saying it is a justification. I'm just saying it's a reason. Okay, because it is. Agree that is. Yeah, no, your emotional, personal reasons for, or like the spiritual gain that you get from hunting probably by itself would not be worth it. Now, to me, where I value that individual animal's life, okay, it is worth it towards that specific animal at that specific time, because that's not something that I just, like I said, man, if hunting was easy, it wouldn't be special. It's something that I worked very hard for a very long time. Yeah. And so when it happens, and it takes thousands of hours of practice, especially with big game, okay, because it's something, that hierarchy is there, and it's something different. It's something so different when you shoot that elk, or when you get in on the elk. You didn't get winded. You're freezing. You're exhausted. The calorie deficit that you're at is astronomical. Yeah. You're so tired. And now you've got this moment that you've been waiting for God knows how long, days, weeks, actually really months, because you start mentally preparing for your hunt months before it happens. And then it's there, and you shoot the animal, and you're filled with an emotion of remorse and success. and it's this crazy mixture, right?
Yeah.
That immediately hooks you.
It makes you feel good. It makes you feel good. You get this rush of like, well, good sensations. You feel good in the moment because you did something that you were working hard for. But there's a lot of things in life that you can feel good about after working hard and waiting that would be quite like immoral, let's say. So obviously I know you said you don't believe it's a justification, but when you give all the explanation, it does sound like, I mean, actually you did kind of say that for you it's worth it.
Yeah.
But then again, like if I had the same feeling by killing humans, like let's say I live in a remote place and every Sunday or every 4 months there's a marathon near my house, and I just wait for 4 months with my sniper, and the second they arrive I take down 5 every 4 months. It's better than taking down all 50 of them, but I'm only taking down 5, and on the long term it's good because these 5, they're humans and they're causing destruction to the environment, but also I feel good because I was waiting for so long, and I felt good because they were strong, they were bigger than me, they were stronger than me, like the example you gave with the elk or other big animals. So that would never justify taking the life of someone unnecessarily. And I think that's a really important point here. It is.
I feel like this is a wall that we're not going to get past. I'm sorry because
I think we would manage to put your finger on a trait that animals have that if humans also had would justify doing the same to humans.
So comparing animals to humans, it doesn't work.
I wouldn't even compare. I wouldn't compare.
No, but just the drawing the analogy, really, right? Because it's humans are our species.
Of course, right? but that would fall under species, though, which is something you said earlier. You wouldn't like accept if another species did that because they are their species and we are ours, and they looked at us as another species.
A great example is that if another person was stabbing me to death, I would be very pissed off at that person.
Of course.
Right? But if a grizzly bear was killing me, there would be that piece of me that understands that it's not.
Yeah, because the
grizzly
doesn't have an agent of morality. They don't really have.
That might be, yeah. So maybe it is the agent of morality. Maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's the trait.
So if someone doesn't have that trait, would you be able to kill them? Would you justify?
It's probably the absolute lack of morality. And you know what? I think that is what it is, because when I think of somebody with an absolute lack of morality, I think of the most evil people that exist, right?
Yeah.
Your pedophiles, your serial killers, things like that, right? When you think of somebody that has zero morality, that's who you think of. And I would have no problem killing them. And as a matter of fact, I think it's better for the species if they're dead.
Yeah, but does that mean then you're kind of saying that these animals are engaging in such horrific acts, but they're not?
Yes, they are. Of course they are.
A deer walking in a forest, you can't compare the lack of morality of a deer because that is their species normality, and then you're killing. But
animals kill animals of their own species
to
promote their bloodline.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Like lying to that, but that would kind of be a new logical fallacy called appeal to nature.
But we wouldn't hold that against them because we understand that lack of morality.
Exactly. But you would be holding it against them if you kill them because they have a lack of morality. You are kind of holding it against them.
No, not necessarily, I guess. I'm just saying I think that might be what the trait is, right? Is that the animal has no aspect of right and wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically all I'm saying is that if we applied that exact same trait to a human being, right? If they were just constantly doing wrong, the evil shit, right? Then you could justify killing a human under the same aspect. I'm not saying that's the trait that I do it for. I'm just saying that I don't understand. And even maybe not, because there are mental diseases where people have a lack of morality and it's a sickness, right?
It's a disadvantage.
It's a disadvantage. But I also feel like most of the time those people do whatever they can to not hurt people. But at the same time, if they do hurt somebody, right, we still do what we have to do. whether
And
it's
most
lock them away in a house or,
Exactly.
and that's
Yeah,
not good for them. You know, they don't like
Yeah.
that, but it's what has to be done for the better of society. And it's kind of similar, I guess, not really, but it's kind of similar, I guess, with animals. I'm just trying to find that piece that you keep mentioning, you know, and I think I'm onto something here with this lack of morality. So I'm kind of just running it through my face.
Yeah, so the examples you gave are good, like humans who don't show any like respect to morality or something like that. But I would argue that most of the time we do our best to find a peaceful solution rather than just killing them. You know, like I know, for example, right now we have the prison system, which is probably the worst thing that existed as something to take care of.
It doesn't help.
But we do have the but we don't. I wouldn't say let's kill them. I would say let's put funding into what do you call it, rehabilitation centers, you know, because
and
that
I would disagree depending on the severity of the issue, right?
Depending, you could say that, but you are in no place to harm a human who isn't harming anyone else, you know.
I agree, but if that human is harming anybody else, right? If that human, because of their lack of morality, is killing people or raping people or something like that, then yes, I do think that they're better with a bullet through the head, and that's that. But that's my personal belief that I know a lot of people probably won't agree with me on.
Yeah, but I'm sure you would also say, like, if you and I find someone who is engaging in such acts because they lack the ability to think morally or to do, like, to not do immoral acts, we would first probably think about, okay, how can we make this person get help and become a better human being? Instead of just saying, nope, just kill them, not my problem, you know? Like,
no, not necessarily. Like, but, you know.
Actually, I'm going to give you a very, very, like, random, and I hope you don't get offended, but I believe if you know everything about animal sentience and everything, and you still continue hunting, I think there's lack of morality in there, which is why I advocate for basic moral rights for animals. But I would never in my life kill you because of that, you know, because I think it makes sense for you and I to have these discussions, because I believe that there's a civil and peaceful way into finding a solution.
So we're just kind of getting into like an ethics, ethics conversation.
If I see a lack of morality in what you're doing, then that would, with your if the trait was lack of morality, then I would be it would be justified for me to harm you or even kill you, which I would never do, you know. So although I do believe as long as you're alive, you're unnecessarily killing other animals, which a vegan probably isn't doing, or at least intentionally. We're not talking about unintentional.
I'm not going to hold the mice that get turned up in a field against you. I obviously know that's nothing to do with you or your fault. I'm not. That's not me.
Yeah, exactly. But I would never advocate for the killing of any hunter or anyone else. It doesn't even have to be a hunter, even though I believe they're taking part in immoral acts and literally causing like death in animals, you know. So the trait, if the trait was lack of morality, then that would justify a bunch of us just going around killing anyone who we believe is not acting morally, you know. And a lot of times,
I don't necessarily agree with that in the aspect that I'm not talking about like different morals. I'm talking about they don't exist. Like they just don't exist. It's gone. It's something in their brain that they don't have. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like it's a lack of morals or different morals, right? Necessarily like somebody might find it morally sound. I don't know how you could possibly, but somebody might find it morally sound to rape women, right?
Yeah.
They might say that that's morally okay, and obviously you can't advocate for that, but there's still something there. You get what I'm saying? Whereas with an animal, that doesn't even exist. There's zero, none.
But that would kind of come down to either intelligence or like mental disadvantages, which in both cases, as you agreed in the beginning of the call, like you wouldn't agree that lack of intelligence kind of justifies killing a human. Like you would never.
No, but I feel like it's all of it kind of in a bundle, right? It's that piece. It's this piece of the brain that we as humans have, right? That supersedes animals, right? No other animal can do what we can do. Right, I'm sitting in some cool ass chair that my wife got me for my birthday that no animal on this planet could build. You know what I'm saying?
That's probably like the trait of intelligence, right? Like intelligence,
right? Of course,
we go forward in different ways. but another animal could see that chair that you mentioned as a plastic that is destroying the environment, and based on your current, let's say, rule of ethics, justify killing you because you're harming the environment with your plastic products. But we would not advocate for that, because that's not the way to go around like immoral acts.
I want to make clear, I don't think animals are harming the environment. Right?
Yeah,
I don't kill animals.
What
right?
have done to their numbers that has an outcome that is harming the environment.
Right, but I just feel like it's honestly super simple when we just look at the success of the species, because I feel like I'm holding the species to a higher standard than the individual animal. I remember in the video that I commented on, it was the Steven Ranella one, right? With the vegan. Steven, first of all, I have nothing but respect for Steven Ranella. He's way smarter about any of this stuff, and I implore you that if you're actually interested in some more morals and ethics and things like that of hunting, watch his show or listen to some more stuff he talks about, because it makes, I mean, he's much better spoken than me. But despite that, he said something. Fuck, I lost it. Right. Much more spoken, much more well spoken, right?
I was actually surprised, because the video I did a reaction on, he wasn't that good except until the end. He was quite like understanding, respectful, but the beginning, the main answers he gave were quite like fallacious. But yeah, I can look more into his stuff. That's probably
I recommend that you do. The main thing is well, at the same time, to be fair, when I watched that video, because I had seen that video before I saw your reaction to it, and I was like, yeah, that all makes sense to me. You know what I mean? I was like, makes sense to me, because that's what I do. You know what I mean? And then I saw your reaction to it, and I was like, and there was a couple of things that I was like, I wish I could talk to him right now, and I could explain and that's what led me to the comment. But another big one that I need to hit on, right? Because you keep hitting on it, and it's driving me crazy, Seb. I love you to death. You're a great guy, but you're driving me crazy with this one. All right. Hunters know that we're killing animals.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not blind to that fact. We're trying to dress it up. At least I'm not. Okay.
Well, when you say harvest or game, I think it's kind of dressing it up in beautiful words.
I feel like it's just now the harvest part. That's the one I want to talk about, because I am fully aware that what I'm doing is essentially I'm pushing a button, okay, that is sending a small piece of metal at a very high rate of speed that flies through this animal's lungs and heart and kills it. I am not numb to any of these facts. And then I go up to the animal, and you know, there's vegan listeners, so I'm gonna be polite here, but the animal dies, and there's no way that my dad always said to me, there's a reason it's hunting and not killing, right? Well, what he always said to me, and every time he says it still to this day, I want to kick him down a fucking mountain, is that's why we call it hunting and not killing. Because if it was just killing, that part happens. The harvesting part is all the work that happens after that, right? It's yes, we got the animal out, quarter the animal, skin the animal, and God forbid you're not too far from your camp or your truck, because now you've got to hike, you've got to hang meat, you might have to fight off a grizzly, who knows, right? So the reason why the term harvest comes, right, is because it's not just killing. Hunting and killing are two different things. I could kill anything right now. I could kill my cat. That doesn't mean I hunted my cat. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think it's important to know the difference.
Yeah, of course there's a difference. Like if you just kill, or if you kill and then you take the body to use the body for anything, it's two different things. But one thing in common is that you unnecessarily took a life. I
don't think it's unnecessary.
Well, you know that you can live and thrive on a plant-based diet, so it is unnecessary. That's where
it's not, right? Because that's the system that we have in place towards progressing the well-being of wildlife. Now, whether it's right or wrong, that's the system that we have. So,
even though
is it necessary or is it not?
Even though you have that system, you can still choose. So it's unnecessary, and every single vegan is a proof that it's unnecessary. If it was necessary, then everyone would have to take part in it, right?
No. No, it's necessary for a subsect of the population to take part. That's why I'm saying that, like, if to be fair, if I quit, if I just quit hunting, right? realistically, it would have probably no effect on the well-being of wildlife. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. But because I'm a part of this group, right? If the entire group quit, wildlife would significantly suffer, but so would we as humans.
Except if we fund better programs, which would be like what vegans advocate for. You know, like I'm not saying let's not have wildlife and let whatever happen. You know, like let the numbers go down or up, species going extinct, species
it's
eating.
Fucking chaos. It would be chaos.
Wherever we have arrived and had an impact, if we just left out of nowhere, there is a big chance that it could be chaos. It could also find a balance eventually, but there's a chance that it would be chaos. So,
but we're talking hundreds of years to find a balance. I mean,
yeah, of course.
A balance. If humans went extinct right now, of course there would be absolute chaos. As a matter of fact, all the nuclear bombs in the world would go off, so the planet would probably cease to exist. But besides that, you know, take that out of the picture. If all the humans went extinct, wildlife would suffer drastically for a couple hundred years. But as you said, it would eventually come back. It would find its own natural balance. Now, my thing is that that natural balance, it's not so natural, but that balance exists, and I'm just part of it.
Yeah. So, well, you're part of the current provided solution, which is hunting for conservation. But so
in the North American Canada region, right?
Because exactly.
People let's be clear, there are people still killing animals all over the world without any sort of regulation, and we're seeing drastic negative effects, especially in places like Africa, Brazil, Indonesia, etc.
Lebanon being one of them. Like there are literally NGOs in Germany and Poland campaigning against Lebanese hunting because it's affecting the birds that arrive all the way to Germany and Poland, and their numbers are dropping because the birds are just like getting killed in unlimited numbers when they're passing.
It's a problem.
Of course it's a problem.
But a good hunting and conservation program there would stop that. It would prevent it.
You know what would also stop that? Making killing animals like illegal, because then we could actually well, at least much less people would do it because there would be a price to pay.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So for example, I think we both agree in this. If killing humans was legal, we'd be killing way more people, left and right.
People would be fucked.
Exactly.
I feel like the estimated life or whatever would go down like 40, 50 years. Like,
of course.
Overnight.
Yeah, because the second you get pissed at someone, there's no price to pay. If you kill them, you'll just kill them. You know, a lot of people would do that. So it's the same with what I'm saying. Like, if we fought for a better world for animals and we gave them the right of personhood and the basic like moral rights and the basic right to live, then obviously much less people, drastically much less people would still be killing animals, the same way much less people now kill humans because they know otherwise they would pay the price, right? So if we advocate for that, then we can actually reach a world where we're not having these issues. And a way of doing that is actually advocating against animal agriculture and using all those funds in finding better programs for conservation. And I'm pretty sure you seem like the kind of person who would eventually probably one day do that. Say, listen, you keep on seeing the same circle: animal agriculture, deforestation, land destruction, poaching. You have to hunt. And then again, the same circle. Eventually, you're going to say, all right, until when? What is the final solution? You know, like you're going around in circles, and the final solution would be animal rights. And that's what
I'm still like, I'll hunt my whole life until I can't get up the mountains anymore. Just because it's so true. I'm going to teach my kids to hunt, you know what I mean, when I have them. Like, not only that, but I also feel like it's just a good skill to have. We've seen how crazy the world can get with one virus, but I feel like it's at the very bare minimum, it's a decent skill to know.
Why would you like? You can go to other places and practice shooting at a moving target. You don't have to kill an innocent animal for that.
No, not necessarily, but it's something in the soul that, like, when I have kids, man, they gotta. It's something that they need to experience, is life and death. right? It's a hard thing to experience. First time I killed a deer, I cried. And even still, right?
What does that say to you about the human race, though?
It's tough, man. But that's because I really do think it's because I was immature and I didn't understand really. I didn't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was out there hunting because I felt like I was supposed to be, because my dad hunted. My dad was like, well, we're going hunting. And I said, okay, copy that. And so, but my dad does a lot of things that I don't do, that I don't approve of, right? So it's not just like I was raised in it and indoctrinated in it. That's not the case, okay? Because I know that's how it sounds right now. But there's so much that I got into hunting, and still to this day, if there's one thing that I'm very proud to say that I am, it's a hunter. And it's something that I'll never apologize for, because though I'm taking life, and I'm very conscious of that, I understand that I am taking life, right? I can justify it to myself. I don't realistically, I don't have to justify it to anybody else. As long as I can justify it to myself, that what I'm doing is necessary, it's ethical, and it's clean, right? And I know that ethical hunting doesn't
oxymoron.
Right? Yeah, it sounds like an oxymoron. I get that. But I mean, even hunters ourselves, we're constantly, I mean, I have debates with hunters about the ethics and the right way to hunt significantly way more often than I would ever have a conversation with a vegan, because we're there. We know what we're doing. We care. We actually care. I mean, just the rifle and bow argument is so diversive.
But if you care, you would just not kill them in the first place. You would advocate for better conservation projects. It's like taking the easy way out.
Sure, it might be like taking the easy way out, but it's also, like I said, it's a bundle of everything, right? Because I do care about conservation, but I also, and like I said, it's something that I can justify to myself, right? It's my own reasoning. I also care about the spiritual and the wellness that I get on a personal level from going out and hunting. And this is all without even talking about the sustenance that I get that's from these lean, healthy meats, which again, like you've said, I don't have to eat, but I enjoy. Okay. And the sustenance and the cost effectiveness, it is very expensive to start hunting, or very expensive to start a new way of hunting. Right. But then once you kind of got all your ducks in a row and you know what you're doing, it's a very cost effective way to keep food in the freezer. And I'm very happy that I'm a hunter, because I know that, it's probably never going to happen. I'm confident of it. But if shit really got bad, really, really fast, I can take care of my wife.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really justify needlessly killing innocent animals by saying, if shit got bad, I can protect my family and loved ones. Because otherwise, again, you can literally get away with
feed her. I could just feed her. That's what I mean. But all morals go out the window in that kind of a situation. So from the ethical argument, it's kind of removed, because in that kind of a situation, I'm just happy that I have the skill, is what I mean.
Yeah. But
it's not a justification at all.
You did say you justify it for yourself, but the thing is, if you use that in society, like I could basically go around beating up people and raping women, but then say, well, judge, I only have to justify it to myself and no one else. But that's not what we do, because we know that when your actions have a victim, then you don't really get away by saying it's justified for myself, because you're actually causing pain and suffering on someone else. And the thing is, like you're saying, like no matter what happens, I'm going to hunt for life. But that's basically saying, even if I find no justification, even if I find no trait that is true of animals, that if true of humans would justify killing humans, I'm still going to continue. You can do that if you want, but you also have to kind of accept that it's hypocritical and unjustified. So
I would accept that definitely certain parts of what I do and certain pieces of my hunting experience would not be, I guess, justifiable under your guidelines of basic animal rights and moral rights. Okay. I understand that I am going out there and I am taking an animal life, but on the flip side of that, this is a wild animal, right? And we have to understand that wild animal are not people. So we keep drawing this comparison between wild animals and people, but we understand that these are two very, very, very different things. especially in the sense that a person can live a long, healthy life with their family and make money and get a job and do all of these great things and then die healthily in their bed. Whereas a wild animal doesn't get that privilege. A wild animal dies one of three ways: sickness, by a hunter, or getting torn apart by some predator. That's it. You know what I mean? And the best way, and I know what you're saying. I know that that's not like a justification. Huh?
No, but same with humans. Humans either die of old age, sickness, or a violent crime or an accident. So does that mean I can go around killing humans?
Well, no, but that's not like what I'm saying is that that's like a human has a greater depth of emotional range. A human has families, right? All of these things. So we can acknowledge, right, that human beings and wild animals are not the same. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that it's like, I know that it's not a good argument for you to say that, because I know that for me personally, right, if it's between taking a bullet through the heart or getting pinned down and eaten alive by a grizzly bear, because they don't give a fuck if you're dead or alive, they just eat. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take that round through the chest every time. Now the animal doesn't care. It doesn't know its choices. It doesn't realize what's going on, right? Yeah. The animal doesn't care about my moral justification for why I hunt.
Exactly, because you're still killing the animal.
Yes, the animal does not care why I hunt. The animal doesn't care if I'm doing it ethically. The animal cares about one thing or two things: breeding, surviving. That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're taking that away from it.
I am. I'm taking that away from it. I'm taking away its chance to further breed, which most of the time, that's something I wanted to get into you with, like trophy hunters, right? Is that a lot of people hate trophy hunters for what they think they are, but realistically, they actually do kind of a lot of good. Now, I might not like their moral and their decisions why they do it, but they actually, when it comes to the overarching view, maybe another time. We've already been doing this for what, like 2 hours now?
Yeah, 2 hours.
Yeah, so maybe another time, but because we could talk about this for years, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll definitely do another one for sure.
But when it comes to like taking a life, I know that because of where I have a heightened sense of intelligence along with you and along with every other human here, not only do I think that we have a responsibility to take care of wildlife and because they can't do it for them. Well, they can do it for themselves, but not with us present, because we have other humans that just don't give a fuck. They don't care. And that's always going to exist.
Can you define taking care of wildlife?
Like promoting the species, I should say. Promoting the species as a whole.
Do you think
right? Ensuring that they're what?
But you're not promoting them when you kill them.
Not that individual animal, right? But
well, a group of animal is made of individuals.
Okay, sure. But taking one buck out of a herd is not gonna, like, in the grand scheme of things, won't hurt the herd. More now, if I went out there and with my partners, with my hunting party, and each one of us took a buck out of the craziest herd of bucks I've ever seen was 11. I saw 11 bucks all at once. I got a 4-point right here from it. That was crazy, right? That's like an anomaly. And I think we took 3 bucks out of that herd, right? But there were no does, and it's out of the breeding season. And now we're getting into like more, like when we talk about the biology of animals, it gets even more in depth and complicated, right? Because I would find it morally unjust, right, to shoot a pregnant doe.
Mm-hmm.
I would. So I wouldn't hunt during their.
Can you tell me why?
Because she's actively breeding. She's actively promoting, like she's pregnant. Like
but when you kill them when they're not pregnant, you don't let them get to that point. So you're preventing them.
They don't get pregnant again, sure. But if I'm going to take a doe, it's usually a much older doe that's probably already past her sexual prime. I mean, there are anomalies here and there, right? Yeah. And I can't possibly know that for sure. But it's more than likely going to be an older doe if I'm going to take a doe. I'm not taking a small young doe that's definitely going to be breeding. You know what I mean? So those are the small decisions that I take or that I make while I'm actually out there. And like I said, I would never expect you to be out there with me, you know, but if you were, then you could see all these small things, because there's a lot of ethics involved. And I know that you'd be like, no. I don't know if that's true though, because you let those guys kill those goats, man. But that's okay because you were doing it to raise awareness, right?
Yeah, and also because in that situation, if I laid my hand on anyone, I'd be getting in trouble, which would stop me from advocating for animal rights on the long term. But if it's only you and I can just take your backpack with all the bullets and run away, there's not much like you either have to run after me, or if I don't know, like there's always.
I don't know, my bullet's pretty fast. I might just stop you that way. We're in the mountains. Who's gonna know? Just kidding, Seb. I would never shoot you. I would never. I'm joking.
Okay, well, there you go. You would never shoot me. I mean, obviously, depends. Like if I'm attacking you or something, you would. But like you would never shoot me because you understand that there's something in me that would make it immoral for you to shoot me. What is that thing, and that is lacking in animals that makes you want to do it to them? Like earlier you said like the lack of morality, but if a human has autism or something and they don't understand morality, you would never say like let's holocaust all of autistic people because they don't understand morality, you know?
Maybe it's opportunity. Like again, all of this I'm kind of coming up with on the fly, and I feel like it's all a bundle, right? Yeah. But also opportunity. I know what your potential, well, I don't know what your potential is, but I know what it could be.
Yes.
Right?
That's
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that you have this potential of life, liberty, happiness, a family, all these things. I know too much. Every deer that's out there, I know how they die. I know their potential. And it's not great. You know what I mean?
One thing I want to say is that like when I said earlier, I don't necessarily believe like an ant equals a dog equals a cow equals a human. That's because of understanding of opportunity. Like you and I can make plans for what we're going to do in 5 years. That's why there's a difference when it comes to how we can value life, because we can do things that can in general generate more positivity and happiness, and not all animals can experience that. However, is that good enough justification to take their lives away because they don't have that intelligence? If it is, can we apply that to humans? We both agreed that like we wouldn't do that. Therefore, that's great.
Potentially, we could apply it to humans, right? Because you got people on death row.
Would you kill humans who do not have the ability to think about what they're going to do in 5 years or something? If not 5 years, then 2 years.
No. That's not what I mean. But I mean, like when a fate is sealed.
Sorry? Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, like when a fate is sealed. Like, for example, somebody on death row, right? We know exactly where they're going to fucking end up. Or somebody that's brain dead or just got in a tragic car accident. We know they're going to die, and we can justify hitting them with the needle and it's over. I don't think it's legal. It should be.
That's in their best
interest. Or even somebody that's old, right? We know where they're gonna be, right? I feel like once we know where something is gonna be, that might be the difference. And again, I could just be wrong here, right? Because the comparison between wild animal and human that we keep making, right?
Yeah.
It's difficult because we understand that they're different, but we keep making analogies that they're the same when they're just not. So it's kind of
they're the same. Like I don't believe they're the same. I just believe that even though they're
the mindset essentially.
Yeah, even like though they are different, they still deserve consideration. Now, actually, I have to leave in a bit. So what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna give you like another few minutes if you want to share anything more, and then I'm gonna stay live to answer some questions. But then you can also take this time to think about the name the trait question. I can write it to you down and send it to you as well, just so you have it written down, and we can like schedule another.
We can do it again, man. I would like to do one. You know what I would like to do, if you don't mind, is I would like to do this again after my next hunt, because after my next hunt, which is going to be October and November, right? I'm going to be up there with nothing but my thoughts for a long time, and this is all I'm going to be thinking about. So I would really like to do one after that. And maybe things are different. Maybe things are the same. You know what I mean? But,
okay, let's do it that way.
But yeah, if you want me to stay on, and if anybody, I can't see the live chat or anything like that. But if anybody has a question for me, I could answer it as well. I'm not.
Yeah, actually, let's give 5 minutes for questions that could be addressed to you, and then it's up, and I can continue with the questions addressed to me. All right. So everyone, feel free to send in your questions. Please keep it. I don't think I saw any like disrespectful like swear words or anything, but keep it.
I mean, you can ask me anything, you know what I mean? But like it's like with you, Seb, right? We've come to each other respectfully. We disagree on a lot of things, but through this conversation, maybe some progress was made, maybe none was made, but at least the conversation happened. So just keep in mind, if anybody's asking questions, right, you come with that attitude, you're going to receive that attitude. If you come with something else, you're going to get something back, and I can be a fucking asshole.
First one says, just take a hike.
That's the plan. Yeah, I'm going to do that in October.
Someone says, where do we send the questions? You can just write it in the comment section. I have, like, I can see the comment section, so I can just read it. Someone says, I want to know why he has the same haircut as the famous white nationalist. I don't think that's a fair question. That's just a haircut.
It's a famous white nationalist? I'm sorry, I'm very limited in my haircuts that I can have. Again, military. I have regulations that I have to follow.
Yeah,
so it's very limited choices.
Yeah, it's also like, I don't know. I mean, someone
it's
can
kind of backhanded, but
someone with dreads can be like a supremacist, something like that. Anyway, so there's a question. Someone says, if it's possible for men to actually live on a plant-based diet that provides all nutrition necessary, why kill an animal? Should animals have to die because you forfeit a dietary choice? I mean, we kind of went through that.
That's like a 2-hour podcast.
How can I communicate with Codey further? Do you want to share your Instagram?
If you guys want to reach out to me, I'm honestly not even sure what my Instagram handle is. I'm not very active on Instagram. I think it's Luker264.
I can pull it up quickly. I have it in the inbox here.
Okay, and if you want, you can also follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is pretty much solely reserved. I'm a massive mixed martial arts fan, right? MMA Twitter. So I'm pretty much solely reserved to MMA. But if you guys ever want to DM me on Twitter about anything hunting related, I will be glad to have a conversation with you. It'll be Luker Codey, just at Luker Codey as it's spelled with an E.
Yeah, and the Instagram is Luker264, as you said.
Copy, thank you. That was my first caliber rifle. That's where that 264 comes from. My first rifle's caliber.
That would one day change to 269. 269 is a very famous story of a dairy cow. That was if I'm not mistaken, the ear tag that they had. I think it happened in the Middle East somewhere. I can send you the video if I find it later on. Okay. Would it be more helpful for the environment and U.S. wildlife to take a life from one poacher or one deer?
Probably from one poacher.
All right.
Yeah, the poachers do so much damage to wildlife that it's a problem.
All right. So the next one. All right. So someone said, okay, message for Codey. The next time you go out to hunt, do something. Watch the animal, take note of their eyes, their mannerisms, their family/kids. Consider fully what you are taking from them. And then when we come back to the next live, tell us how that went for you.
So I just want you to know I do that every time. Every time I look at the animal, I watch its mannerisms for 2 reasons. 1, because I need to be able to predict its movement to make a clean, ethical kill. But 2, also you do take in that moment. Obviously, wild animals aren't just hanging out with their kids. They don't have young at the time that I hunt them. Their young have moved on. They're usually alone. So, but yeah, that is something that I do take into account. But I will be extra special about it next time.
All right. This one, I'm pretty sure you would do this, to be honest. Well, depending on where you are and your availability, I don't know how it's like at your work, but take a vegan challenge, then come back for a chat. Like, would you do that like for a month?
Take a vegan challenge for a month?
Yeah, just go vegan for a month or something. Like,
a whole month? Yeah, I might give it a shot. Yeah, I'd probably give it a shot.
Yeah. Someone says, does he know about welfare biology? Hunting isn't the only answer if you care about wildlife. I honestly, personally didn't know about welfare biology either. We can look into this and then talk about it in the next.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
All right, and then let's take 2 more questions. Oh, this is amazing. I thought about this earlier. I forgot to tell you about it. You should look up who Damien Mander is. I'm going to send you his amazing TED Talk. I think it's one of the most watched TED Talks. He used to be in Marines, but also a hunter. And now he runs an anti-poaching kind of like militia, but like legal, let's say. It's all vegan women from the local.
I saw this.
The Akashinga. They're called the Akashinga.
Yeah.
They're like, they protect by all means necessary with weapons all the wild animals.
Fuck yeah,
So
I'm all about that, dude. I'm all about that.
Talk, watch that, and we'll talk about that next time as well.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so this is a good one as a last question. If you turned vegan, given that you did it like by being convinced, do you think you would feel embarrassed?
Maybe. That's a good question. Yeah, maybe a little bit. You know what I mean? I do have some hunting friends and family members and stuff like that, and they would definitely make fun of me and pick on me. But I'll tell you this right now, that if I did choose to go vegan, which I don't see happening, I'm gonna just let you know that right now. But if I did choose to go vegan, I would, and that was a decision I made. Nobody would bully me out of it, right?
All right. Yeah.
So,
good.
But no, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's stay in touch. I'll send you Damien Mander's talk. I'll send you the Name the Trade as well if you want to look into it. And then, we'll talk after your next little murder trip.
My murder trip. Yep.
All right. So I'm gonna. If you want to share one last thing, go ahead, and then I'll continue.
I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, that listened. I'm sure there's a couple of people in there cussing my name, but that's okay. You ain't gonna hurt my feelings. One thing I did want to say is that there are an influx. I know that all of us, I hope, hunters and vegans alike, are in some way, whether we agree or not, involved in trying to make animal lives better, right? And so there are an influx of charities and things like that. If you want to donate to a vegan charity that doesn't support hunting in any way because you can't put your money there, there's hundreds of them. And similarly to my hunting guys, because I know I didn't donate to charity for a long time, because I just assumed that any animal charity was just going to be like shitting all over hunters, because the only one I knew of was PETA, right? But no, there are so many, and there's a great wiki online that breaks them down into either pro-hunting, anti-hunting, or indifferent. You know what I mean? So just find something that works with you, and I feel like we could work together. Any dollar that goes towards protecting animals, I'm about it. So. All
right. Perfect. Okay, man. Well, thanks for the chat, and we'll stay in touch for another live debate. I'm going to remove you now, and I'll continue with the questions.
All right. Thanks, Seb. You're awesome, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Later.
All right. Thanks to everyone who has been here, whether you've been watching from the beginning. It's been 2 hours, 20 minutes almost. I'm just going to hang out for another probably 10 to 15 minutes, maybe even more, to answer questions. Anyone who wants to share anything, just go ahead. All right. I'm pretty sure there's a delay, so I think I can pull up the link from my YouTube directly and mute it. All right, it's already muted. All right, Spindrift. Well, that was an interview with a psycho, basically. I wouldn't call him a psycho. I actually think there's a chance that Codey would go vegan. He's quite strict with what he believes in, so if he did change to veganism, I think he'd be a pretty awesome activist as well. He does care about animals in the way that he believes is caring, and he's very aware that us vegans find it weird that he claims that he cares about animals. All right. Alison Stewart, Codey, you're just a pre-vegan. That's true. I think he could be pre-vegan. Do you put products in your hair? No, it's just, I just use natural soap basically. What's your educational background? I'm guessing these questions are already for me and not for Codey, because I know there's a delay. My background is in architecture. I have a master's in architecture. I used to work as an architect for almost a year before I quit my job for activism, basically. He's so desensitized to violence against animals, it's sad. Yeah, unfortunately, well, if you grow up hunting, of course, you're going to be desensitized, and that's one of the problems, I would say. All right. There's still 40 of you watching. 2 hours, 20 minutes. Thank you so much, guys. By the way, let me know what you think about these debates, because I really enjoyed it, and there's a chance I continue and do more of them. I agree. I think he might soon eat only those 2 animals in a year, and that's a big statement, and good job from you. I think that's what he wanted to talk about, because he did mention he wanted to talk to me about some changes and mention factory farming. So I'm guessing that he might be going into the direction. I mean, if he ever goes vegan, I think the first step is going to be him only eating 2 animals a year, and then the rest, like, just boycott all animal agriculture, which obviously is less bad than eating animals, whether you've hunted for them or from animal agriculture. I want to address not how humans are different from animals, but how we are the same. We are the same in one respect and one only. All beings want to be happy, and all beings want to be free. I'm not sure if all beings want to be happy, because some beings don't experience happiness, but I do agree that we all want to live, and we all want the best for ourselves, and all sentient beings are to a different extent conscious of their own experience of life, and they do want to prevent pain and suffering and death. Would you take Sadhguru on for a debate? Any day, I'd love to. I actually just got my video back up. He actually took it down by claiming a copyright strike on my whole channel, which is quite serious. And then I sent a notification claim, which basically tells YouTube that I'm giving him 10 days to take me to court. And obviously he didn't, so my video is back up. And I'm actually starting a new series called The Worst of Spirituality. And I want to expose every single one of these hypocritical human supremacist so-called spiritual leaders, and expose their logical fallacies, and their speciesism and violent acts, and basically encouragement of eating animal products. Great debate, much better than the rigid debates that sound like a different language. Sadhguru wouldn't be able to debate when there's no audience cheering him on. So true, so true. He loves that. Whenever he wants the audience to cheer, he just goes like this and everyone starts clapping. I couldn't kill anyone even if they only experience another day. That's their day to live. It's true. He said that he would like to talk to you after hunting season, so I really believe he will do it then. Hope so. Sadhguru is a grifter. He might be a nice grifter, but still a grifter. What made you go vegan, an activist, documentary, etc.? I actually went vegan after watching Earthlings, Gary Yourofsky's speech, and another speech called 101 Reasons to Go Vegan. And then I watched 2 documentaries, one on the Animal Liberation Front, one on the Earth Liberation Front, and I decided to go vegan. Can you give Codey's address again? I want to communicate with him. So it was Luker, Luker 264. So that is his Instagram. Let's see. All right. Any more questions? By the way, for those of you who don't know, I actually just published about a new ebook I was working on for a few months. It's going to be about logical fallacies and animal rights. So it would help you detect logical fallacies in your discussions. It really helps make your advocacy much better, because you can go back and forth arguing about facts or studies and things like that. But if you can actually detect a logical fallacy, you can't really argue against logic. So it's going to be a free ebook. I'm right now working on getting it translated up to 20 languages, I think. And hopefully it'll be ready at the end of the month. So if you want to support the ebook in any way, if you want to support by translating or donating for it, because it's going to be free for everyone, go on my website, sebalex.org/ebook, or just go on the website, sebalex.org, and click on ebook, and then you can see all the information about it. Thanks again for the talk. Oh, it's Codey. Thanks again for the talk, Seb, and thanks to everybody who listened. There's so much more to talk about, but we will get another time. Have a great day, guys. Thanks so much, Codey. I was actually going to send you a message right now on Instagram, but I thought I'll do it later after the live is over. So yeah, thanks for joining the live. I really appreciate you reaching out and having this conversation. And as I said, I do believe that if you go vegan, you're going to be quite a good addition to the movement, because we need, I mean, you're quite open to begin with. The fact that you had this conversation is already a sign of it. So yeah, you're quite a dedicated person. And I think that could lead to some great activism. Thoughts on Gary Roski's little return? If you mean I think he's been making short videos. I haven't seen one lately, but I know he posted a few probably a month ago or so. I don't know. I find it weird to like Gary Roski's little return. What do I think about it? I mean, there are some great things that he's done. I really like his speech. I really like the way he speaks for the animals. I like the way that he actually manages to give a speech on full offense, very unapologetic, and still make the audience who want to listen to him. I think that's a really specific way of doing it. It's not easy at all. And yeah, there are some things that he said that I don't agree with, but I also don't believe in canceling people completely. So I can always learn something from someone and not like blindly follow or accept everything they said. I don't think there's any human in my life with whom I agree 100%. So that applies to Gary as well. Bhakti Vikasas, why, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, recently discussed veganism. Krishna consciousness believes in using dairy and the farming of cows came up. Maybe check his channel or see if he would discuss. Because okay, I'm gonna write that down. I might know who you're talking about, because when I was doing some research for the Words of Spirituality series, I saw a few channels and spiritual people, let's say. And the name kind of sounds familiar. So let me just quickly check. Okay, no, I don't think so. So thanks for sending that. I'll definitely do a video on him. And if I can get in contact with him, I'll definitely do a debate, that's for sure. Great debate. I learned about the mind of a hunter. Well, thanks for joining. I'm really looking forward for the ebook. Thanks, Allison. Why must veganism be political? All types of people must be included. I actually have a video on my channel called 7 Reasons Why Veganism is Political, whether you like it or not, so definitely check that out. Rudy Ayub, what's up, my man? Thanks for joining. Will you ever have a discussion with Joy Carpstrong, or ask yourself? That would be pretty cool. What about though? I want to have a discussion with Ask Yourself. It's just that I've been so busy with the ebook. He helped me out as well by going over it. We want to discuss about eating at Burger King or the Impossible Burger and things like that. I just haven't had the time because I want to have all the facts and the numbers and the data. I don't like going on discussions with just like opinion-based stuff. So I'd love to do that. Why do humans feel privileged to destroy the environment? Because they're human supremacists, basically. Let's see. Did he ask you how to have this debate, or did he ask you to have the debate, or you approach him? He actually, I think, commented on my YouTube video, Meat Eater versus Vegan. So I emailed back, or I commented back, and I told him to message me on Instagram. Codey, do you have another contact? I don't do Instagram, Facebook, email. He said he has a Twitter account. If you want that, you just send me a message later on. I'll ask him and send it to him. Vegan King, hello Seb, huge fan of yours. Thanks for fighting for the animals. Thanks for the support. And I think I'm gonna end the live here. 2.5 hours. That passed really quickly. So just want to thank every single one of you for joining. I really appreciate it. That being said, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't, click that notification button. If you want to support my work, check out my website, SEBALEX.org. If you want to support the ebook, click on the ebook section, or you can also just share my work. I actually, at the moment, have a lot of slaughter footage on my stories on Instagram from yesterday. I filmed slaughter for like 3 hours. So if you guys want to support in that way, you can always share my content as well. That being said, thank you again so much for joining. I will keep you all up to date with the future debates or any live. If you know anyone who wants to debate me, or you want me to ask someone to debate me, just send me a message on Instagram, seb.alex. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all. I'll finish this now. Never seen anyone debate Hare Krishna on veganism. That would be awesome. Yeah, we'll try to make that happen. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment as well, telling me if you want me, well, giving me information on anyone else I can debate, as I said earlier. Take care, everyone, and have a good Saturday or Sunday, wherever you are.